To begin with, I love my son with all my heart, but he blew up his marriage by cheating and moved back home. I, female 55, have 3 children. My oldest is my daughter, 30, then my twins, 25 male and female. My oldest just got married to a wonderful man. My younger daughter is going to grad school overseas, leaving my son. Let's call him Carlos. He's always been a handful. He got married when he was 20. His ex-wife had a toddler daughter who I love, no matter what. I'm her grandmother. They had a child together, my other grandchild. He's 2. The global issue caused a lot of stress in his life, and he works in a fly-in, fly-out camp job. He's gone for 2 weeks at a time, then home for 2 weeks. He makes perfect money and enjoys spending it, maybe a little too much. Carlos cheated on his wife with a coworker. I am not judging him. I'm not perfect, but he chose to leave his wife and children and move back home. It doesn't make sense for him to rent an apartment or something for the 12 days a month he's home, so I allowed it. But he decided to be an idiot, in my opinion, and bring his dog with him. My grandbabies love this dog, but he's trying to punish his ex for telling him to leave. It's a beautiful border collie and the perfect dog for their home, which has a huge yard, lots of walking trails nearby, and even an off-leash park only a 10-minute drive away. I live in an apartment downtown. I am allowed a dog, but if I were to have one, it would be something sedate and non-shedding like a Maltese. I swear I tried watching this dog, but my son is irresponsible. He doesn't walk him much. He doesn't brush the dog. He's just holding on to the dog to lever his way into his ex's life. The last straw was this last time off work. He was away for 2 weeks and then came home for 1 day before flying off to the United States for a vacation with his new girlfriend. So I called my daughter-in-law, checked that she wanted the pup back. She almost cried with joy, packed up everything that belonged to the dog, and took him over there. My grandchildren were ecstatic. My son just came home 3 days before he had to leave for work and asked where his dog was. I told him the truth. He's calling me an idiot for giving away his pet. Also, I said that if he tried to get the dog and bring it back, he was not welcome in my home. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, in my opinion. He's only thinking of himself, not you, not the dog, and not his kids. I'm not generally supportive of unilaterally giving away someone's pet, but I think it was entirely justified in this case. He brought it into your home without asking you, and he's never home to take care of it. He was intentionally making you, the dog, and his own children upset just to get back at his wife for not putting up with his cheating. Good job, Grandma. What kind of father takes an adored doggo from his kids? He's already destroyed his family by cheating and leaving them, but he chooses to traumatize his kids even further? Bravo for refusing to participate in the punishment of his ex and his kids. Bravo for telling him if he tries it again, he's out. From my perspective, you didn't give away his pet. You returned the family dog to a healthy environment. I believe you should also say if he moves out of your home and steals the dog again, you will report him for theft yourself. Also, calling you an idiot? You're nice to let him back into your home at all after that. He's always been a hothead because he likely hasn't suffered real consequences. Tell him that if he's old enough to get into this mess, he's old enough to figure it out. Stop letting him live with you. Time for him to handle himself and his own life. Again, maybe you should take away the safety net and let him learn to take responsibility, and perhaps he'll finally grow up. The truth is, he's very much an adult now and sounds to be very self-centered. As a loving mother, I understand that sometimes it's instinct to try and save your kids. However, honestly, I don't think you're doing him any favors. I don't see why he can't stay with his new girlfriend on his time off, as she is clearly his priority. You say he earns good money, so why would he not be able to rent a room or a small studio just to sleep? Stop coddling him. I like most of my neighbors, but not the ones next door. They have a 4-car driveway and a 2-car garage, but always have their guests park in my yard for some reason. We live in a semi-rural, semi-suburban neighborhood. There is no street parking. If you want to park on the street, you have to be about 75% in someone's yard. Last week, they had contractors over who drove through my yard to access their backyard, leaving deep, muddy tire tracks still indented across my yard. This weekend, they had a birthday party for their kid's birthday. They put a bounce house up against my fence. They don't have one. despite their backyard being half an acre. My dogs did not have it, so I brought them inside. Unfortunately, my kitchen window looks into their backyard, and my dogs wouldn't start barking because they were right next to our fence, even after I brought them inside. I gave up after a while and tuned them out. At least with them barking inside, most of my neighbors won't be able to hear them, minus the birthday party next door. The mother from next door came over to yell at me. Apparently, a bunch of the kids wouldn't use the bounce house because of my dog, and one kid who's afraid of dogs wouldn't stop crying. I said I brought my dog inside so she wouldn't be so loud, and that they should move the bounce house to a spot that isn't in front of my kitchen window if they wanted my dog to stop. They had half an acre to choose from covered by fence, and they chose to put it in the worst spot possible. She demanded I put my dog in a cage or lock her in a room where she couldn't see them. I told her to screw off and get her guest out of my yard. She called me a witch and said she'd call the police for my dog being a public nuisance if I didn't control her, and said that they'd moved their cars when the party was over. I closed the door and called a tow company, and they towed 3 cars before anyone noticed. They returned for the last 2 and got moved before they could take them. I told my friends about what happened, and they're split. In our area, it's pretty common courtesy not to park on private property without asking the owner. Some think I should have stormed into their backyard and told everyone to move or get towed, but I don't want to go into their property. They're the only ones who seem to think that's okay. Whenever I throw parties and have family over, I always have people park in my driveway or yard. Am I the idiot for having my neighbor's guests towed? They had 5 cars on your property, and they came onto your property to tell you to lock up your dogs further? Not the idiot, and hopefully they've learned their lesson. But please be wary of your dog. Check your yard for poison food and document all interactions with this neighbor. They may retaliate. They sound spiteful and out of touch. Cameras covering the whole yard are required here too. You gave plenty of warning. If a cop got called out, I don't think you get any grief over the dog making noise with a big party right next door, being thrown by the caller of the noise complaint. Given that she threatened to call the police on you, it's actually kind of hilarious that you called the tow company on her. Someone parked in my driveway once, and there were no spots on the street. They left their window open, so I honked their horn to get their attention. The owner popped his head out, but had the nerve to refuse to move the truck. Me being me, I opened the door, put the truck in neutral, and let it roll down my hill of a driveway. He was watching and yelling. I left it in the middle of the street, parked my car, and went into the house before he got to his car. No guilt. Your space is your space. My fiance, 26 male, and I, 23 female, have been together for over 2 years. I don't have a big family, just my dad and my older sister. My dad has always been a single parent, devoting his life to my sister and me, working over 14 plus jobs in the past 6 years to provide for us. I love my dad, and we have the best relationship anyone could hope for. However, my fiance does not get along with him. They have different opinions on so many things. For example, my fiance once suggested to my dad to sell his truck because it's been sitting there for years. My dad got offended because this was my grandfather's truck and he had no money to fix it. Another example, my fiance got mad at my dad at a party for talking about his struggle after my mom's death and accused him of collecting sympathy points. Still, Dad said that he always talks about it casually. Their recent disagreement was when my dad refused to give my fiance money to contribute to the wedding. My fiance complained, but I said my dad wasn't obligated to pay for the wedding. Yesterday, my fiance told me to look for, quote, someone else to walk me down the aisle, and I asked why. He said my dad refused to help with the wedding, and he should be grateful he's still invited. I got upset and argued that, for one, my dad refused to contribute because he had no money. He could not afford to pay. And two, just like any bride, I want my dad to walk me down the aisle on my wedding day. He threw a fit, saying that I was trying to ruin his mood and get him upset on our wedding day. But I called him selfish for wanting to take away the moment I always dreamed of. Sounds cliche, but I'm like that over his disagreements with Dad. It's not fair given that my dad and I are on great terms. He yelled at me for calling him selfish, although it's our wedding, not just mine, and said that I clearly don't give a hoot if he's uncomfortable, then walked out. He's fuming and insisting I'm inconsiderate and projecting on him when I call him selfish. Not the idiot, but red flags everywhere. Your fiancé's trying to control you. He sees your father as a threat to his control over you. There is no rational reason why he's taking issue with the issues he's been having a go at you over. I've been where you are. Please, OP, look up the term coercive control. I wish I'd realized this concept sooner. You are the idiot for planning on marrying this man. You are dangerously oblivious to the red flag parade of signs your control freak fiancé is trying to drive a wedge between you and your family for what cannot possibly be any good purpose. I doubt your dad is the only person who brings out the self-centered idiot in him. But unfortunately, it sounds like you've dismissed a lot of his behavior. Just wondering though, if you're so close to your dad, why are you marrying someone who doesn't respect him? He doesn't have to be best friends with the guy, but some common decency is the bare minimum when you, and by extension your family, will be tied to this man for life. To be honest, your fiancé sounds emotionally immature, highly entitled, and like he's someone who's extremely inconsiderate of you and your wishes. Because, seriously, not wanting your own father to walk you down the aisle is ridiculous. So I would honestly rethink this relationship if I were you. X and I were never married, but we share 2 sons, Cole tween and Micah pre-tween. 3 years ago, he met his wife Janessa, and 18 months ago, they started living together with her kids, who are under the age of 10. The boys struggled with their dad being serious with someone, and I hated that for them, so I put them both into therapy. My ex wasn't thrilled. His biggest complaint was therapy wasn't something he believed in, but our court order states either of us can put the kids in therapy, as long as the parent who makes the choice pays, provides access to the therapist to the other parent, and doesn't interfere with the other parent's schedule. I take the boys on my time, so it was never an issue. Once they moved in together, the boys started to dislike things, and it only worsened when my ex and Janessa married. They felt like Janessa was trying to take over as their mom, which they didn't like. There was pressure put on them to call her mom and her kids brother and sister. I don't know everything. The boys prefer to keep certain things between them and their therapist. Still, after a while, the 2 therapists raised concerns about the environment in my ex's house and had no cooperation from him when they both tried to speak with him. It was agreed that I should try to amend the parenting time he gets. The judge decided he should go from 50-50 to every other weekend and a dinner every other Wednesday. X was not happy. He argued that he could provide them with a 2-parent home. The judge said that they were engaging in parental alienation by attempting to force the title of mom on his wife. He also told my ex that he should have cared more about his son's well-being and engaged with their therapist. X and Janessa are unhappy with the new schedule, and they've both attempted to complain to me that it was disruptive to their household to have the boys so little and to have more money taken out of their household. I do my best not to engage. Janessa's pregnant now, and they wanted to have the boys in the weeks leading up to the birth so that they would be present when she has the baby. I said no. I told them that it was not in the best interest of the boys, so they decided to bring it up around Janessa's daughter during a moment where the boys were not present, how it impacted their household and how much of a strain it was on them. I told them I didn't care about their household. I care about my sons and their best interest. The child heard. My ex and Janessa called me an idiot for saying that in front of her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your ex and his new wife sound like hard work. Why would she demand they call her mom as anyone's guest control thing? I imagine. I hope you and your boys are okay. You keep on doing what's best for your kids. They're the ones that brought it up in front of their child. If they thought they could get you to agree with what they wanted because her child was present, well, that backfired on them, didn't it? Good for you for taking steps to ensure the best for your kids. I hope your kids adjust with therapy and more time away from your ex. Perhaps I'm a bit too jaded, but I'm immediately suspicious. What does she really want your kids around for? Because to see the birth of their half-sibling doesn't ring genuine to me. Have your kids ever complained about being made to do more chores than is fair for kids their age, or being made to entertain or watch their step-siblings? I was just about to mention this. She already has children. She knows darn well that a newborn is hard, but a newborn with single-digit kids around is harder. I was surprised to hear that they wanted 2 extra children to take care of, until it clicked that those 2 children would probably be taking care of something that made her life easier, like watching the other 2 children. My 25 female aunt has 3 kids, very young male, pre-tween female, and tween female. I didn't see them very often while I was studying at university, but now that I'm done with my degree, I've moved back to the same state and usually see them every other week when I visit my parents. They're their neighbors and eat most meals together. A few months back, her son was throwing a tantrum and he threw something in my general direction. It wasn't aimed at me and it bounced right off of my forehead. I guess it must have looked funny to everyone watching because they all laughed for 10 minutes. I didn't find it funny, but it wasn't intentional, so I brushed it off. Unfortunately, everyone's reaction made my cousin think throwing things at me was funny, and now he does it every opportunity he gets. He started throwing food, and what angers me is that everyone still laughs when he does it. Even though I've repeatedly told them, it just encourages him more. I've tried talking to my sister, who says she'll deal with it, and her idea of dealing with it is just telling him to stop once and then just shrugging it off when he doesn't. So since no amount of yelling or threatening has worked on him, I've decided to change tactics. First, I bought ice cream for all 3 of her kids and only gave him his share after he promised not to throw things at me anymore. It didn't work. I was fed up. His parents weren't doing anything, so the next few times I visited, I bought the girls gifts or chocolates small enough to be shared. My cousin was very upset, so I told him I wouldn't give him anything until he stopped throwing things at me. He, of course, threw another tantrum until they gave in and brought him what he wanted. But since I've kept doing it, my aunt is tired and asked me to stop buying things for the girls, but I refused to do so until she told them to behave. She says I'm being immature and that he's just a kid, which I agree with. This isn't his fault. It's hers. So, am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your cousin isn't stopping because all the recognized adults in his life are paying attention to him when he does it. He's far too young to know any better, so threatening or punishing him from your position won't help. And sucking your other cousins into your plan is absolutely not cool. The appropriate response at this point is just to excuse yourself whenever he's at the table. Don't let yourself be a target. I'm afraid I have to disagree that he's too young to know better. I'm surprised at myself, but I'm going with not the idiot. Ordinarily, I'd find your tactics wrong, but someone has to find a way to tell this child that what he's doing is wrong. Your family members are the real idiots in this situation. They shouldn't have laughed the first time. They should have let him know throwing things is wrong because you could hit someone. Instead, their laughing reinforced his bad behavior. Someone had to stop it. It's your sister's job to parent her toddler, and it doesn't seem like she's doing a very good one. The devil on my shoulder is telling me to say that you should buy them all ice cream and throw his at him. However, that's super inappropriate and wouldn't go over very well. So definitely don't do that.